teachers of Reddit, what was the worst attempt at cheating on a test you've witnessed? In 8th grade, we had to turn our homework into a basket on the side of the room. Two girls decide to take my homework out of the top of the basket, copy all my answers, and put it back in. Problem was, not only did the teacher see it, but one girl actually managed to copy my name. I subbed for a fellow teacher's history class my first year teaching. One of the students sat there with a blank test for the whole period. He waited until another student put their test in the basket on the desk, then went up and grabbed the other student's copy of the test. I just sat there and watched it happen and wrote a quick email to the teacher I subbed for. When the kid finished copying the answers, he tried to return both tests to the basket. I took his test off the top, wrote a giant 0 on it, and handed it back to him. He just dropped his head and left the room. The whole thing was handled in silence and none of the other students even realized what had happened. A girl in my French class wrote the answers to the quiz on her leg. Our uniforms were kilts, so you could split the skirt above the knee to see the answers while keeping your leg under the desk. Would have been an excellent plan, except she got cold just before the lesson started and put some thick tights on. She then realized she couldn't read the answers through the fabric. Edit. Just to add, I was also a student in the lesson, which is why I knew about the attempted cheating. She was bragging about how smart her idea was before the teacher let us into the classroom. Wrote and performed in a Ren festival in Southern California and Texas. Fast forward 10 years later, and I'm no longer performing the show, but other actors are. I'm now in grad school in Oregon teaching a playwriting class. Kid turns in his play with the same title. Characters, dialogue, me. This is a really funny play for a first-time playwright. When did you write this? Student, oh, just over the past month. Me, no you didn't, because I wrote it over 10 years ago, and I have the DVD right here. I have a worst and a best. Worst, 3 kids in my history 12 exam. We were writing in our gym with 2 other classes, so around 100 people, and the first portion of the test was multiple choice. They had worked out a coughing pattern to do A, B, C, and D, but they did not do any. So when an answer was E, the first guy just turned around and asked what do we do now. Issue was, the teacher was standing behind him and only said, gather your things and meet me at the front. All got 0. Best, I was in a Policy 2000 class dealing with international relations and types of governments around the world. The prof let us bring in a cheat sheet, 8.5x11, with anything on it. Most brought thousands of words both sides. My buddy brought a friend who was completing his PhD in Policy, that was doing his thesis looking at international governance, and had him stand on the piece of paper. Prof allowed it, but then changed the rules of the exam the next year. He got an A+ BTW. Not a teacher, but I witnessed a few pretty bad cheating attempts in my public school days. A guy in my calculus class sat in the desk 3 feet from the teacher's desk and had his phone out googling the answers. He was so surprised when he got caught. Also had a girl in my app government class googling answers on her phone for the app exam. Cheating on the app exam is a huge deal. If she got caught, they would have voided the tests of everyone in the room and had us all retake it, except her. Finally, a kid steal homework from another kid, erased his name, and put his own name instead. Problem was the homework was multiple pages and the original kid had his name on every page, which the thief overlooked. My dad is a teacher, and one of the students in one of his classes tried to cheat off of the smart kid who was sitting right next to him. Unfortunately, the smart kid's handwriting was so messy that the cheater got all the answers wrong anyway. Not exactly a bad attempt, just lazy on the part of my teacher. My senior year of HS 94, the history teacher was leaving that year also. Every week he would give a 10-question multiple choice quiz for something stupid like 20% of our weekly grade. The thing of it is, he never changed the tests for a decade almost, so the current class would get them all from the previous year's class and just make a 10-word mnemonic. No one ever studied or paid attention in that class, but we all had damn near as. Just walk into class on Friday, ask your buddy what the sentence was, and ace the test. That dude Mr. Thompson had senioritis worse than the actual seniors. I was another student, not a teacher, but I had to take remedial math in college. Kind of embarrassing, but ultimately very helpful, and it was a go at your own pace class. Come in, work on your own, request help from the many tutors. As soon as a student felt ready, they could take a test on a section's material, and if they passed, move on to the next. So this one dude got the answers to the section 1 test from his friend, who had already taken it. Only problem is there were several different comparable tests on each section. So every day this person would elect to take the test, fail due to it not being a match to his answers, and have to wait till the next day to try again. God tucking forbid he should make use of the very helpful tutors and actually learn some basic math. I completed the class in less than a month, and kept the helpful textbook. Very soon will need it to help my kids with their homework. Last I saw that dude he was coming out of failing the first test again with his useless cheat sheet. Again, not a teacher. Guy in our physics class tried to cheat by putting some formulae on a piece of paper in his pencil case. Obviously, got caught. And the worst part? We were given a formula booklet for the test. Had a kiddo tape his notes to the brim of his hat. He was a foot taller than me, so when he walked into class I could see the notes already taped on there. He didn't think that plan through. My father taught a class and soon realized two good friends always had exactly the same answers on their tests because dumb kid copied smart kid every time. So he handed out a multiple choice test but made a special test for dumb kid where the numbering was slightly different. When he handed back the tests, he made a point of saying out loud, "Hey smart kid, you did great, you got 96%. Too bad dumb kid looks like you bombed this one." Only 5%, to which the dumb kid blurted out, "Hey, that's not right. I had exactly the same answers as him." He grinned, collected both papers and said, "And that's why you both get 0, and we'll be rewriting this test tomorrow. In separate rooms." Edit TL. Dr. Guy cheats during exam in full lecture hall with a walkie-talkie, gets caught, and tells the person in charge to F off. While I teach, this particular story happened to my best friend. 2007. It was during a final exam of one of his business classes in his first semester. He studied business and economics back then. An entire row of a 700+ seats lecture hall. Only every second row was used for the exam. Other seats remained empty, was full of a group of friends. As soon as the exam started, one guy, let's call him Al, gets out dozens of papers with solutions to exercises. Poor sub on duty notices something's fishy, walks up to him. The Al casually puts his papers back under his seat, still visible. The guy on supervision asks him to hand them over, but Al does not have it and tells him to F off in front of more than 300 other students. Person in charge was a rather small alternative guy. Al was muscular, so our alternative friend backs off, but wrote down notes about the student in etc. at his desk. As if this weren't enough, mid-exam Al pulls out a large old school walkie-talkie, yes you read right, a walkie-talkie, and starts talking to one of his buddies in the upper rows. The alternative guy sees it. Really everyone notices Al at this point, walks back up to him and asks him to hand over his exam. Al yells at him, denies all accusations, tells him to F off again, and calls him the son of a Hurensohn. In German, the alternative dude backs off again, while the entire lecture hall is either confused or laughing about it. This incident was the first and last time I heard about Al. Never met him or his friends in person. My buddy said they all disappeared by the second semester. I like to think that he is now a super secret spy. Same class in high school. First, there was a Huck Finn worksheet that everyone but me and 2 others turned in verbatim copies of it, actual photocopies. And second, group around me decided I'm the cheatee for a spelling/vocab, so I let them get all my answers off it, then wrote my essay slow. Once they all turned theirs in, I changed my answers to the correct answers. 6 people that day failed with identical failings. Friend of mine from high school was trying to cheat on a spelling test, so he wrote the words on a tiny piece of paper in the smallest legible font size that he could read. He tucked the piece of paper under his leg and was going to refer to it as the teacher called out the words. She walked around the classroom as the students were writing down the answers, and she noticed the piece of paper under his leg. When questioned about it, he quickly moved the paper from under his leg to under his armpit in one smooth, obvious motion. When she tried to retrieve the paper from under his armpit, he moved it again, only this time he ate it. He was busted, but it was a valiant effort to destroy the evidence. I think he ended up getting a 0 on the test and maybe detention.